10 o'clock, we're taking a new look at a notorious and frightening chapter of Arizona's history. Two little girls vanished from their safe rural community, and police received a chilling note from the killer who calls himself the Phantom.
And now, Brandon, our investigative reporter Morgan Lowe is learning new secrets about this case. He's live in the newsroom, and Morgan, you are getting this information from the killer himself.
Yetta and Brandon, that is correct. It's taken 4 years of trying to persuade him to open up and answer my questions. But he's doing that now, and it reveals a lot of new information about why he did what he did.
It was a summer of fear in a small town. The killer lured, then murdered one young girl after another. He even gave himself a name, the Phantom, something he wrote in a letter taunting police and threatening to kill more young girls.
My sister wasn't allowed to leave the house without anybody with her.
They wouldn't let your sister go anywhere by herself?
No.
After 2 months, investigators made an arrest, a 16-year-old boy. He pleaded guilty to murder and went to prison, 40 years to life. That was 1967.
Did you ever think that he would get out of prison?
Never in a million years. Never.
But in 2015, the Arizona Board of Executive Clemency voted to release William Huff and put him on home arrest. We videotaped him riding his bike around a Tucson neighborhood, young children walking nearby. In 2018, Huff violated his terms of release when he allowed his girlfriend's family and their 8-year-old daughter to stay with him.
By unanimous determination of the board, he has been revoked and he will remain incarcerated at this time.
Huff went back to prison, but now, 3 years later, we have a new interview with one of the original criminal investigators.
What went through your mind when you saw that he had given himself a name? Not only was he taunting investigators, he'd given himself a name.
Oh, yeah. He didn't think he'd ever get caught. He really didn't. You know, and there would have been more murders. More little girls would have died. There's no question in my mind, you know, that would have happened.
What drove that 16-year-old boy to commit such heinous crimes? For the first time, we may have some answers.
I made sure a message was sent.
Huff is answering our questions, exchanging letters with me. I have often asked myself what I would have told myself then, he wrote in one letter. And he has a message for the victims' families. I am not denying the fact that a 16-year-old child did commit the most heinous of crimes. And all my life, I just wanted a chance to say, I am sorry for the terrible pain it brought upon the families.
Now, you're probably wondering what else he wrote and how do we know if he's being if he is in fact sorry. We're taking a deep dive into this story with a new podcast called True Crime Arizona: The Phantom Killer. The first episode launches on Monday. Yetta?
And I'm telling you what, a lot of us are wondering, how do you get somebody like this to speak to you, or in this case, write letters to you answering all of your questions, Morgan?
I started covering this story 4 years ago when Huff was released from prison, and I spoke to him back then and to his family members. At that time, he did not want to talk. I think he was concerned that what he might say might land him back in prison. He ended up back in prison anyway, and now he and I have discussed that there's really no downside to him being honest about what he did and why he did it.
My goodness, Morgan, the deaths of these little girls, horrifying. I can't even imagine the pain that these families have gone through. What do these families think about all of this?
So I'm working with the families, and they are participating in this podcast. They say they have unanswered questions they are hoping to get answers to, and that is one of the goals that I have with this podcast.
All right, Morgan, thank you for that report. We look forward to that podcast on Monday.